Om Shanti, good morning. Good morning from Romford, from England, and we're all, of course, still locked down, but I thought we could take this opportunity to go over the second part of the Brahma Kumari's World Spiritual University study course. And of course knowledge is useful as a pointer really to direct us in the right direction, if we agree that it's the right direction, of course, but without its application and implementation, then knowledge is just really going to affect the head rather than the heart. So really the knowledge is all encompassing to bring the human soul back to a state of love, basically. And that's the beginning of the journey, that's the journey's end, pure love. So, without this actually being done in a great deal of spiritual love, then it really has no effect, and if it's received without love, then it has little or no effect whatsoever. So I do remember a song that I remembered as a boy, and it was, I woke up today, I was crying, lost in a lost world, because so many people are dying, lost in a lost world. Some of them are living an illusion, blinded by the darkness of their mind. In their eyes it's nation against nation, with racial pride. Sad hearts they hide, thinking only of themselves. They shun the light, they think they're right, living in their empty shells. Have you forgotten we're all children of a family tree that's longer than a centipede, and started long ago when you and I were only love? And that's really the epitome, if you like, in the world that I live in particularly, is that unless it actually ends in a state of love, everything else is by the way and really anti-love, fear-born. So we come back to this issue of, very sensitive issue of the Supreme Being, God, or the Supreme Soul. There's many mouths, there's many opinions on the subject. I didn't get a very good explanation when I was a child of what God's role is or who God is, and so there was never any kind of leaning towards belonging to a certain religion or way of life or anything like that. But when I had the introduction to myself as a soul, then I could understand that it's just like we have a physical father, and that physical father changes every life. Every birth we have a different father, we have a different set of parents, different family members and even friends, and in our next life we have a different, if you like, family pack that we bond with, but we're all children of the one Supreme Being, the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Father. And I know that there are many atheists and agnostics on the earth, but it always kind of dawned on me why the subject or the issue was still there in the subconscious mind of God. Why would we even consider it again and again? And that's because the Supreme Being did something. There was a meeting point that took place between every single soul and the Supreme Soul in our existence of eternity. And that time is the time when the soul is at its most lowest. The human soul has become completely discharged. The Supreme Soul always remains fully charged. So in the sense of the love of the Supreme Soul in meditation is to recharge the batteries of the soul so that I can let go all of my agendas and innuendos and inner conflict, so that inner conflict that's being held inside is released, dispersed, transformed. So that I'm not badgering everyone else of yourselves with that inner conflict, so that I'm not adding to the conflict of the world. I'm actually reducing, negating and transforming the negative energy into positive energy without thinking of it too much. Because people have this kind of tendency to think about weaknesses too much, and that in itself becomes a weakness, because we start to believe in their strength, and weaknesses don't have any strengths. Only strengths have strengths. So your qualities are your strengths, your weaknesses are weak, so they don't belong in the human consciousness. They spoil the life. So human beings normally remember God at a time of sorrow and suffering, so that indicates in our memories we have this inbuilt memory that God did remove our sorrow and our suffering in the past, centuries ago. Every human soul carries a memory, so that when there's sorrow they go, oh God. Or as they said, someone said a little while ago that there wasn't a single atheist on the beaches of Dunkirk when their life was threatened. Everyone all of a sudden started to pray and started to have a certain belief or hope, because it's already being carried in the human soul. And that's the interesting thing, isn't it, that we don't actually take anything with us, but we do take our sanskars with us, which are our memories. And memories, obviously, this tete-a-tete we're having here is embellished and enhanced with love, and that's what goes into the soul. All the academic studies, they would have to be relearnt again in the next life, but all what we learn about love, pure love, unconditional love, feelings of not taking, feelings to give, that all goes with the human soul into his next life. Whereas the Supreme Soul doesn't come into birth and rebirth. He actually stays externally to the whole drama that's going on. Human souls all have roles to play in the drama of life, from birth to rebirth and so on, etc. The soul goes from a charged state, a happy state, a loving state, to a discharged state, an unhappy, peaceless state. So we're actually being recharged now, rather than going outside looking in different countries, which we don't need to do. We just need to look inside to the soul. And all of us are the children of the same Supreme Being, the Supreme Soul. Scientifically, it takes something external to correct something internal. God remains external to correct that which is internal. Same with marriage guidance counsellors. They stay outside of the emotional distractions that take place between the husband and wife, and their judgment and their discrimination. It has more clarity because they're not affected by the actual emotions of it all. God isn't affected by all the emotional upheavals, but will always remain a loving and pure, detached being that observes the roles that we play, and then when we have a need, when we decide to connect to the Supreme Being, that's when He's ever ready, always there with the love, the purity, the peace, the patience, the mercy, all the good qualities that we hold so high. It's kind of like the God is a generator, operator and destroyer. So as long as we're remembering God, turning our mind towards the Supreme Being, the Supreme Soul, the generator is generating that love inside of me. It's sustaining the love because it's a pure love. So therefore it's ever coming, ever transforming. And the D is the destroyer because He destroys all my negativity that I've been holding on to, not releasing, but probably churning and making myself discharge even more. Because the more you churn negativity, the more discharged and unhappy you become. And it's all going on here, nothing here. It manifests into the body, but it's all going on here, at the centre of the forehead. So there's a saying that if all the land was changed to paper, and all the trees were changed to quills, and all the sea was changed to ink, you couldn't write down God's qualities. So, because there's too many, basically. So whatever quality you need in your meditation, when you take that into your meditation and start to absorb it from this source point of love, this source point of peace, this source point of joy, then the Father has an obligation to the soul, the child, to actually fill the soul with that power once more. So in the sense of human beings relate to God as the creator, and He's obviously not a creator of a material thing because He Himself isn't a material being. He's a spiritual being. So obviously it's the soul, it's I, the soul, that is remembering God as a creator. When I'm body conscious, I'll think of how God creates the material form. He doesn't. When I'm material conscious, I'll be thinking of the way God created the world. He didn't. Matter is eternal. Matter just changes form. It changes from a state of heaven, pure, to a state of hell, impure, according to human vibrations. Human vibrations also affect animal vibrations. We bring the animals down and we take the animals up according to our vibrations. So when I create pure thoughts, I, the soul, am sitting in meditation with the Supreme Being, and I pull His company into my company, then my company, which is not the best of company, trust me, is being coloured by His company. So the Father is creating or recreating the child, the soul. The mind gets affected by the company it keeps, and so the more I turn my mind towards the Supreme Being, and if you can, make it 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Keep on turning the mind towards the source of peace, the source of love, and start to feel the waves of light and love coming to you. I start to become transformed inside. The very core of my being starts to be impregnated with love, peace, patience, humility, sweetness, softness, kindness, gentleness, courage, fearlessness, etc., etc. As many qualities as you can think of, they're being absorbed as you think of them. So I only have a limited quantity of it left. It's only so much tolerance, only so much patience, only so much humility before it breaks. But by remembering the one that is an abundance of those qualities, that starts to be my birthright. So I'm being reborn again into a spiritual way of existing. So as I walk, as I talk, as long as I'm connected, I'm sharing something good with you. If I'm not connected, then this knowledge will only affect the head and not the heart. So whenever you speak to any soul, become aware that you're talking to the soul, not the soul's body, and then it's a soul-to-soul experience. So whatever power that you've got starts to get empowered into their soul, even though they are the soul, they're not the body. The main difference in what's actually being processed is you change from the viewpoint of having a soul to being the soul. So you always were a soul, but the soul became body conscious, white, black, pink, orange, whatever the body is, male, female, young, old, etc., etc. And this is why people keep trying to change their image, because the soul's lost its image to the body, so it tries to add something to the body to give it some different image, but it's the soul that is trying to get the image, and I'm the one that's behind the eyes. So we call God Shiva. It doesn't really matter about names. Names are very limited, very restricted. We use the word Shiv, Shiva, Baba. Baba means daddy. Shiva means benevolent, benefactor, the one that's all-giving, always producing that beautiful power, has his own personality. We use the word he loosely because we don't want to say it. We can say she, but people might wonder what I'm talking about. There was a movement once upon a time where a group of females got together and tried to create God as a female, but God's genderless, doesn't have a male or female consciousness, doesn't even see our male or female consciousness, doesn't care, doesn't have any interest what religion I'm in, what movement I'm in, as long as the movement is taking place between myself as a soul to the Supreme Soul. So I'm creating a bridge, and that bridge is love, pure good wishes, pure self-worth, pure self-esteem. Nothing wrong with self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, but when it enters a world of arrogance, then we've lost our way. So we're just getting that communication between the soul and the Supreme Soul. Regarding all my family, friends, they're his responsibility, they're not mine. Wherever I'm meant to be an instrument in doing will be done according to what love is and what love provides. So I'm not actually trying to change anyone, trying to convince anyone, trying to prove anything to anyone. I'm just trying to be the best I can be to replicate the qualities of the Supreme Soul. So I wouldn't be trying to control anyone with this love, because that would actually be a body-conscious state of arrogance, of stubbornness, of irritation for others, because people are fed up trying to be controlled, and they're probably fed up trying to control others as well. It's demeaning for the other people, it's tiring for the self, it's anti-love. So we're getting that love that is not corrupted by anything. It's a pure love. It doesn't have any motives, no agendas. There's no money being talked about. Anyone that goes talking about money is actually souring the relationship between themselves and the source. So if this remains pristine, remains a good relationship, then all my relationships with everyone around me will also be enhanced. So I'm not actually trying to love everyone. I'm trying to understand love for one and love for everyone. We're creating this oceanic state of love within the self so that others can have an oceanic state of love that's being impregnated from soul to soul, brother to brother. We're all a world family in different costumes. It doesn't matter about the roles we play. It only matters when we make it matter. And when we make it matter, then we don't matter. But we will always matter, but we'll just matter matter less for a short period of time, and then we start to matter again when we make the right things matter, soul to soul. The bodiless state of the self, the one that doesn't have a body but is using the body, and the one that is eternally bodiless, doesn't have his own body, doesn't come into a cycle of birth and death, doesn't register happiness and sorrow, is the embodiment of joy. Call him Baba, you can call him God. Obviously if you think of him as a human being, then you will still remain in the human consciousness, because this is the problem. My consciousness is a problem to others because of my body consciousness, not theirs, not how gross everyone else is, but how gross I am as a soul that's processing myself to be a human body. And I never can be, I never will be. I took this body, the time of this body will run out, and then I'll run out, I'll leave the body and exit from the centre of the forehead to my next costume to play my next role. So I'm not taking anything of the I, of the body, of the role, or the my of the body with me. I only take this new love that's changing my contaminated love. Human beings' love has become contaminated because it's selective. God's love isn't selective. It doesn't rely on any condition. It always is. And there's a lovely song that I do remember from another childhood song, and the words of it just finished. It was called High Vibrations, and the way it finished was, like the time I ran away, turned around and you were still standing, waiting for me. So obviously the aspect of standing is not a physical standing, but is in good standing, is always there for me. Okay, so enough is a feast. I think we've had enough knowledge for today. We just need to process this new yogic experience. Yoga means union or yoke, union between the self, the soul and the Supreme Soul. So this is what we're going to meditate on now. So I'll put some music on to set the scene. So let's fly. So I sit in silence and I withdraw from the 5 sense organs of the body, and I focus my attention on the centre of my forehead, where I dwell, where I sit on the throne of the body, set back from the eyes, within the control room of the body. And I focus my inner sight on the Supreme Being, a source point of light, a source point of love. And I imagine waves of love coming from this source of love, from his mind to my mind. And as my concentration on love strengthens, I feel the vibrations of the light of love flowing from the centre of my forehead, removing all my doubts and fears, all my worries and guilt, and the vibrations of pure good wishes from the Father to the children flow throughout my entire body, out into the room and out into the world, encompassing, encircling, touching all 4 corners of the globe. This is my charity, my good wishes to the world. I am not sharing my love. I am sharing the love for remembrance of the source of love with my world family. The change that is meant to happen is now happening providing I keep my link of love with the source of love, the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul that fills the world with supreme love. This is the most important lesson I will ever learn. Om Shanti.